I just thought I'd jump on and show you this plant.
Hello and welcome to the Treasured Page. I'm Melanie and this is our quiet crafting space.
So this is something that I've picked up in my local supermarket. It comes from Morrison's here in the UK, and it says here a climbing collection jasmine, and the variety is Beesianum. So I would not have known what that meant a year ago. I would have looked at that and thought, oh, lovely, a jasmine that's red that the bees like. I wouldn't have thought any more of it, and I probably would have passed it by. But for those of you that have been following along with the French Linen Botanical Journal last year, where we learnt about the great plant hunters, and in particular the sponsor that was Arthur Bully and his wife Harriet, and how they set up a business against all odds, against the grain of the family business, which was cotton, being cotton merchants. They decided to become growers and seed collectors, and they hunted down special specimens. And this plant, we know from the name Beesianum, was named after the nursery for the person who found it, which was Arthur Bully, and his company was called Bees Limited. Bees Limited. So it's nothing to do with bees other than Arthur Bully named his company Bees. So this would have been discovered by a team of explorers that went over to the Himalayas. They risked life and limb to bring back samples to the company, which was Bees Limited, and where they cultivated the seeds and provided penny seed packets to the masses, and then they were able to sell them on around the world. And so I have this plant about to go in my garden, all because of Arthur and Harriet Bully, the Edwardian plant collectors. And so here's Arthur Bully in his drawing room in Ness Botanical Gardens over on the Wirral near Liverpool, on the border of Cheshire. And he commissioned George Forrest to go out and have a look for all these plant specimens along with a team. And Kingdon Ward, he was another one of the plant explorers. And there we go, Bees Limited, that's the logo for the company. Bees Limited from Liverpool, Mill Street. That's where they had their stores, that's where they sold their seed packets from, and became extremely famous. And if you're interested in the history, or you're interested in learning something about why we have all these specimens and things, and you want to see, I put it all together in this wonderful journal that is the French Linen Botanical Journal. And the construction of this is a really, really good one to copy. So if you were thinking of making a soft cover journal, this has been a real success. It is chunky, but because I've extended the pages out, it's got a lovely ability to wrap round and hug the journal. And I'm thinking of having a closure here with an elastic, and I've put so much in here. I mean, there's so many larger, bigger bits, tickets, and lots of stuffed things in this journal. I feel the inspiration of wanting to get into the garden and start growing, and my mind is drawn back to where things come from and how amazing it is to have some of these plants in our garden, but they originally started in much, much more exotic locations to the UK. I'm going to do another page in here just to finish it off with you, so we've got that to do. And this is the book that I have been studying and looking at. I keep dipping into it. I just find the story absolutely fascinating. It's not for everybody, but it is a really interesting history of how the plants came about to be. This journal follows on from the Marianne North story, although I did this first. And this is the Marianne Journal. If you've not seen the playlist for the making of the Marianne North Journal, which I did throughout December, January, February, you will be able to see exactly how this all came about and why it is such a chunky journal, and all the fantastic stories surrounding this incredible woman who is tucked in here somewhere. Let's see if we can find her. Here she is. So this story completely inspired this man here. So we've got Marianne North and Arthur Bully, and they are connected, the journals are connected. So Arthur Bully and his wife were this amazing powerhouse team that wanted to bring botanical plants to everybody so that they could grow them in the garden. Marianne North wanted to bring botanical plants to the world, being able to be seen in their natural habitat and to show them exactly where they have come from in the world, so where they originated from. So Harriet and Arthur Bully were completely inspired by Marianne North. The connection, of course, is Kew Gardens, which is where you can see Marianne North's gallery, which, of course, Arthur Bully and his wife would have attended. And when Marianne died, Arthur Bully was just embarking on this notion of the Bees Limited Company opening up the nurseries and then sending the explorers off around the world. Well, Marianne North never went to China. She couldn't. It would be far too dangerous for a woman travelling on her own. She did travel on her own. She travelled everywhere as much as she possibly could on her own. She was an intrepid explorer, finding all assortment of all these botanical wonders that she brought back to delight and inspire others. And so she's still doing that today, because we're utterly been inspired by this journal and all of her stories, just as Arthur and Harriet were inspired to bring seeds to everybody in Edwardian times. So this is then coming forward to an era that we're more familiar with, Edwardian, and moving in towards the First World War, and so how that affected the life of people in that era. And so there we go. Those are two very, very different journals, but they are completely linked, and Arthur Bully would have known, very much known of Marianne North's work, and he then followed it on. So she had had her own specimens named after her. This one came later. She's renowned for this very peculiar, quite provocative plant, actually, in Victorian England when everybody was collecting orchids. She then found this, and a woman finding this would have been quite a sensation, particularly because of the look of the plant. It is, as I said, provocative. So a woman being able to have plants named after herself was incredibly interesting, and it inspired these explorers to then have that accolade, that celebrity status of having their name onto a plant. And plant collecting in Victorian Edwardian times was hugely popular. They said that Kew Gardens in London received 70,000 visitors over a bank holiday weekend. I don't think it can boast those figures today. It is just not as exciting. But botany has inspired so much throughout our history. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're from. There's always a story, a painting or a poem regarding nature in its rawest, wonderful form. And so we are going to delve inside this book once more of the French Linen Botanical Journal. And if you'd like to see the making of this, please have a look. There is a 4-part tutorial on how I made this in the playlist on my channel here on YouTube. There's 3 pages still to complete. There's one slightly empty one there. There's this one, which is the Explorers, which we'll look at. And then I've got this one, which I just want to put some more images of Paris, and just to, that was part of the story. So if I delve into that, and I'll just talk about it as I go. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to have a look at this. Now, this is the mountain range here that I painted, and you can see that on the playlist, how I managed that. This was on a tea bag fabric that I was sent from Australia from Faith. Thank you, Faith. I love it so much. It's still here looking amazing. I then did a reading from this book, which is all about the Alpine peaks, and it was perfect to come and be in here. So I'm now not sure how I want to have this laid out, but I'm certainly putting all the pieces of ephemera that I've got here. I've then got our intrepid explorers. Now, I had lost this piece of paper. They'd obviously gone on some mission around the craft room, but I finally caught up with them, so I'm going to tether them down where they need to be in this book. I've got this vintage piece of writing paper which I found a stamp of a mountain, so that's all great. I've then got some envelopes that I've made up out of a digital kit from Tracy Fox. I think it's called Herbarium, and they came like that in the kit, and you are able to just cut them out and fold them up. So I have dutifully done that. The information on both sides is really interesting. It details what it was like for explorers to go up to mountain ranges, and they would have gone to Switzerland and places like that because they were also collecting seeds for alpine plants, pretty little alpine plants that only survived really high up in altitude. So I want to add this in, and I'm thinking that if I can hinge that in, that would be quite nice, but this page is so delicate that I'm almost wondering if it might be better folded. Now, most of these explorers were found by Isaac Bailey Balfour from Edinburgh. He was the Regius Keeper at the Royal Botanical Garden in Edinburgh, and it was an incredibly important job, and they had to find the right people to go out to these far-flung places looking for plants and seeds, risking life and limb. And Francis Kingdon Ward was one of the explorers. I'm going to just put this down here. I'll keep it as a little tuck there so we can get to it. So Francis Kingdon Ward was quite an educated man. His father was a professor of botany. And Francis was sent out to Shanghai to go and be a teacher. That's what he was. He was a teacher, so he would teach in schools, presumably English, perhaps science, and that is what he did. And he was found over there, and it was incredibly dull. I'm just going to stick these down. So there he is, he's in Shanghai, he's teaching in a school, and he's incredibly bored. It's not really what he wants to be doing with himself. He is actually quite an adventurous person, but he has to make a living, so he becomes this school teacher. He's in Shanghai, he's teaching Chinese children, and he gets this letter from Bailey Balfour regarding Arthur Bully, who would like him to go and be a plant collector, requesting his services, and would he like to come and join an expedition team to the Himalayas and to places where it would be a bit dangerous on the mission of collecting seeds. Well, he didn't have to be asked twice. He was absolutely up for that. He was so bored with what he was doing. He quickly handed his resignation letter in and went off to join the team of explorers to go and look for these plants all around the world. Now, Francis, this is Robert Forrester. They were all famous in their own right, and many had plants named after them. Francis could be found in China in some gorge, hanging off a bamboo sling, trying to find seeds and specimen plants off of these tiny little alpine plants that were only growing on the sides of cliff faces and things like that. And this is what they got up to. So they were real adventurers, real explorers, and the whole thing was quite exciting to be one of these seed collectors and plant hunters in Edwardian times. So I just wanted to honour them there and have that and be able to find them. So I'm just going to add a little fussy cut here from a botanical book, and I'm going to put down a label there as well, just to finish this off. Just a little story moment in this journal that allows me to reminisce about what I've learnt about the great plant hunters and the fact that this was very, very dangerous. This is some blossom, so perhaps we could have that going down and then the blossom over the top. So I'll just glue that down as well. I've just realised I've not inked this one, but I don't think it matters. Okay. Right, and then another little Tracy label going down, a little Tracy Fox label going down there, and then over the top I'm just going to put this pretty sort of cherry blossom style. It could be apple blossom, doesn't matter, it just looks nice. So we'll have that, and then a little scuff up with the ink around it. And then I'm just adding this alpine map to the back there, and we've got this vintage writing paper, and then the whole thing looks quite nice. And behind there, there's still writing space as well, so that's all fun little journaling card. And that's how I'm leaving that. These wonderful explorers that have brought us so many of the seeds back, just like the plant that I'm going to be putting in my garden. I think that it was discovered by Frank Kingdon Ward, and I think that that's just wonderful. He did so much for Arthur Bully, bringing back the plants. And we know that the jasmine was found in China. And this part of the journal tells a story of when Arthur and Harriet went to Paris. They did that quite often, quite regularly, and that would be for the purpose of going to the herbarium libraries over in Paris, which were of huge importance because they had quite an extensive documentation in France of plants that had been found previously, and then they had lots that hadn't been documented, and some of the samples had been muddled and lost. So it was always a case of, have we found something, or has it already been found but not documented correctly? So Arthur would often have to go over. They knew how to speak French, they'd learnt that, and they taught their children as well, so everybody could help in the family business. And I'm just thinking, you know, when they were there, they most definitely would have gone to the ballet or a show or something, because that's what you did when you went to Paris. And I've got this wonderful ephemera pack here called Blossom Song from Brigitte at Kaylee Black Creations, which you know I absolutely love all of her digital kits. So I'm going to be using that and just bringing in some of the imagery here. We know that they were cotton merchants, so Arthur and Harriet would have been going over for their cotton merchant business as well, just as much as they were seed hunting for alpine plants as well. And this is just a fusion of botanical images and lace and fashion and all things that we love, especially the fashion coutures that would have been in Paris of that time, and where many used to come over from America to come and get their fashion from Paris in Victorian Britain. That would have been a real pull, a real holiday. You would have really gone for that vacation to come and get your Parisian fashion. So I'm going to bring that in because it was a huge part of the story of that era. Here I'm just going to cut these out and see what they look like. I don't want to back them, I want these to be thin. Okay, in the centre I've got stick glue, which I've just gone over with my Yoo-Hoo stick glue, and then round the edge with the precision nib I've just put the art glitter glue so we can get a good seal all the way round. And then adding in this, even though I've torn it a little bit shorter, I'm not worried, I'm just wanting it to go right up to the top. There'll be a gap at the bottom, but that's fine because that will be where I'll put a little trim or something, a little bit lace down the bottom there, just to fit the theme, because this ephemera here has got lovely lace in it. So we'll now start to build this up as a bit of a collage, and I might like that to go along the bottom even. That's quite sweet. That could be a tuck in, not sure. We'll play around with the elements, but it's definitely fun. Okay, so I've cut some of my images out here from the digital kit. I'm going to have a look at just placing them around and using as much as I can just to get this sense of abundance that you would expect or want from a really wonderful break or holiday. And because this journal started out with the idea that it would be written or from the point of view of Harriet Bully, and we know that she did like fashion, So this would definitely be one of her little passions, would have been to have visited some of the beautiful fashion houses over and have a look at the couture over in Paris. So I'm going to add that, and we've got the tickets, and it makes you feel like there's shopping, and then the little images here that I've got going on already. I think it's just quite nice to add lots. So more is more on this one. I'm just going to add some elements here, and we'll just stick it all down. We will go with the stick glue there. So that now gives me this interesting pocket. I'm working on an angle here. So when in Paris, you absolutely have to visit the bridge where you have the love lock keys, and you would then have a little message or have a little kiss or a little romantic moment on the bridge, and you would get a padlock and lock it onto the bridge, and that's called a love lock. So that is wonderful. And there's an image here of Aurora, Coffee and Crafts with Rory, where she put together a page spread for hers, and she found this really fun image of the lady on the bridge. So I thought that was great, so I'll just leave that there so that you can see what others have been up to with the inspiration from the French linen botanical journal. And then I'm going to add this in. A nice big slick of glue, and then putting that into the corner there, into the crease, and then all the way up. So this is a pocket, but it's a very thin pocket, so that's fine. We don't want anything too bulky. Look what we've got. I've got some vintage ledger here, which is perfect to add one of these cards. Little bit of ledger paper just to show that she was buying things. So we'll put that down there using the original edge of the paper. Glue stick grips nicely onto old porous paper. The glue's a bit wet, but that's okay. We'll leave that to dry. Just putting a little bit of ink on the edge, especially where I've rounded the corners, take away the white of the digital kit and make the whole thing blend in together as one little fun piece. This is just a nice way of using digital cards and creating something much more old world, where we've got the original paper on the back there, and just use the bone folder and then smooth out any of those creases. And we have got a really fun little journaling card there. Little bit of ink. Add that into this pocket here so that we can see the word Paris. And then we've got this vintage postcard there as well. So that's just some fun areas to write as well as down there as well. So it's quite nice that that's like that. Okay, so I've glued on 3 sides, and now I'm going to put this up the top here, tucking it into the crease and bringing that over there like that. That's beautiful. That's really smart. Okay, and then that's a little tuck under there and a tuck under there, so we'll see what we can put in, if anything. Gives us options. And then journaling cards can go in there on an angle, like that. And now I'm just going to put a little circle punch in. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, that went wrong. Never mind. Let's just repair. Repairez-vous. So I needed to come down a bit more with my hole punch. So I'm just going to repair it with this little bit of vellum I've got here. Little scraps, got something written on it. It's quite sweet, some numbers. So we'll just put that on there. Okay, so we have reinforced that. And now let's try the whole punching thing again. This time I'll see what I'm doing. Right, I need to come right the way down. Punch, that's more like it. Then I'm going to put on a reinforce. Now we can't see my mistake. I don't think we can get around the back, so we'll leave that. That's pretty. And then we just want a little bit of thin lace, something in there. So I'll just see what I've got. Oh, that is sweet. And a little bit of Fabri-Tac glue just on the top and on the other side of that, just to see if I can get this to set. Like that. So sort of a little tab which you can get to then. So these have been backed with the vintage ledger, and then that is going to go and live in there like a neat little pockets, and then the journaling cards can either tuck under this bit, or that could be for photos as well. Just the options there, it's just a little bit different. There could be more pockets here if we want. We could add extra bits to let's have a play. So while we're having a play with what else we've been given on this kit, I'll have a little look and see how I feel about, yes, you could have a little extra one there, and then that breaks up that harsh line. That's a little bird, or we might like the dragonfly. Let's have a look at the dragonfly. I quite like that dragon. We might like a little bird. Oh yes, like the little bird. Oh, okay, we're going to have this then. So that could be a tickety-pockety thing. I'm going to risk using this glue because it might be quite nice if there is a little discoloration. I'm going to just do 3 sides very lightly. And just break up that line there with that. That's great. And then I'm going to add my bird with this glue. This is one of my birds available on the Ko-fi page, and these are really sweet. All I've done here is emboss it with a clear embossed glaze. I think I used an antique linen to give an aged effect. Yes, I did. So this is the little bird available on my Ko-fi page. You can download the birds, and they are good for fussy cutting, and then they embellish lots of things and look lovely, so that's fun there. And then we could even have another little ticket or something down there, couldn't we? What else have I got? Or I've got something like this where I've done a stamp, so that could go there. I will add one of these. So this is just a rubber stamp onto some coffee paper, coffee dyed paper, and then just fussy cut out, and then I added some gold paint to the little flower embellishment there, which I'm sure we've seen in a previous video. So there we go, that's all coming together. Really fun collage, and then that is a little ticket area there, so we better put a stamp in that one. Little stamp in there, and then that's just really fun. So couple of journaling cards, a tuck, a space for a much larger pieces of paper, photographs and things could all be filled in there. There's no bolt really, that's very, very thin. It's all just come from the kit, so we'll just tuck it in under there. This is just an interesting feature here, another place just to show off a piece of lace or something from your collection and stash, and then just another focal point of the bird and the butterfly stamp there. And I'm really pleased. I want to add some lace just to give that a nice edge there. So we just, and then I can just come in with this trim that I've got here and smooth that down, and that just ties it all together. Perfectement. Et voila! And then we have our French Parisian pages, so we can go off to Paris and buy a new hat. We can enjoy the soaps and the scents, the perfumeries, the couture, the wonderful Lovelock Bridge for Arthur Bully and Harriet to just have this most amazing adventure together, and then go and visit the herbariums over in Paris as well to further develop the intrigue that is the botanical world. And we can even add some of our own plant specimen prints. Our eco die can even come and live in there like a nice little journaling card, tying the colours all together and just being awesome. So I really enjoyed putting that together today. That's been really relaxing because sometimes we just need these breaks, don't we? So that's all happened. Isn't that super? I'm really pleased with that. I'm really pleased with that. We could have something down the bottom. Let's just finish. See if we can be deep. Okay, and because I'm in a lace mood, I've just put a smear of Fabri-Tac down the bottom, and I'm just adding this little piece in here because it's so fine. I think it'll just tuck in there nicely. Just give that little edge, just diffuse those bottom bits there and give a nice little overhang with a scalloped edge. And that I'm calling done. Oh my goodness, I think the journal is almost complete. Almost. I'm just adding in this little bird into the corner here, and this is from the kit, the Blossom Song also. I've just inked around the edge. I'm just tethering it onto there, just to think that's sort of a bit different. Just a bit different, and then that breaks up that expanse. And that is a very thin belly band there, which I think is really, really lovely. And then just to complete this, I've got a little bit of sari silk I'm adding there as an embellished bit. Quite fun. Might even like that to wrap around. Let's do that. I like it when these little ideas pop up. It's a little wraparound bit there. That's quite fun. There we go. That's that. Okay guys, so there we go. That's been an epic one. Along with the Marion North journal, we'll do that flip through on the next video, and I hope that you found some fun and value there. I'm off to plant this wonderful red jasmine, and let's hope the bees do like it and we can look after nature here as best we can. And I shall report back because I can see some little buds forming on it now. So won't that be wonderful to see some little red flowers and a little sense that I know exactly how this came to be in my garden from the Edwardian plant hunters of yesteryear. So all that's left to say is thank you very much for joining me. Do please like and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more inspiration from the treasured page. I'll be back very soon with my next video. So above everything else, just slow down and make crafting time for you. Bye bye now.